Hello and welcome to Cosmic Rescue. I'm Cecily Saylor. I'm the founder of Typewriter Tarot, and this is a show where I talk to creative people about a creative problem they're facing and we explore it using tarot. Today, I'm very excited to be talking with Swathi Konduri, who is a visual artist based in Austin. I met Swathi at an artist market where I was also vending and was really drawn to her paintings and her work, and we connected after and turned it into this whole episode. Swathi is about 20 years younger than me, just about, and really blazing trails already. Swathi recently left her corporate job, her first job after college, and decided to commit herself to her artwork full time after painting became a pandemic hobby that transformed into a tremendous talent. And so Swathi's story is really incredible, and we do talk a little bit about that, but what we're really digging into today is the question of how the artist can decide which parts of themselves to put into their work. We know that audiences associate what we create with the person who created it, as if there is some kind of biographical correlation between what we see and what we read and the person who made it. And usually there is some connection, which is why we think about these questions. What do I want to reveal? That inquiry from our audience may be on or off the right track, but it's also about whether we're comfortable having those kinds of conversations with our audience about who we are, if it comes to that. And so there's definitely a lot of tenderness and trepidation and consideration that goes into which of the many multifaceted parts of the self do I want to be seen. And so that's something that Swathi's grappling with right now, and we use tarot to explore that. So the first part of the episode is getting to know Swathi and her work, and then we move into the tarot reading, and then at the end I'll recap the tarot spread that we came up with so that you can use it yourself and see what's true for you. Please enjoy the episode. It's a wonderful conversation. Swathi is very inspiring, very funny, very lively, and wonderful. She just has wonderful energy. So keep watching and enjoy. I am very excited to be with Swathi Konduri, who is a visual artist based in Austin. Swathi, thank you so much for being on Cosmic Rescue.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, to start, I would love for you to talk about your artwork and the kind of art you create. Maybe share a little bit. You're surrounded by your artwork right now, so tell us a little bit about that, and just your oeuvre, your collection.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, I'm located in Austin, and I had basically just been doing art while I was younger, but I never really took it that seriously. But then once I started moving to Austin, I just started drawing with colored pencil again. And so I would say that is my favorite medium to work with. But as you can see, I've been painting a lot recently. And so, I feel like my subject matter typically is something to do with the human form, or lately I've been doing animals. I was painting a lot of cows at some point. But I feel like the common thread is just, I love bright colors. This specific red, a little bit brighter, is in so many of my pieces, my Frank Ocean piece. And so, I recently, July, so a few months, 2-3 months, I decided to go full time after getting a little bit more familiar with the art scene here by doing art markets. And so, just kind of built up through that and learned what of my art kind of people liked, what people didn't like, just figuring it out. And so, I feel like I have been very inspired by surrealism, and I find that resonates with a lot of people. And so if you look here, this piece, a newer piece, kind of just inspired by, I was just having a lot of very vivid dreams where all of it was so realistic, except one detail was wrong. And I would wake up just super confused. And so I kind of wanted to translate that idea and that feeling into pretty realistic animals, but putting them in the complete wrong environment. And so we have a jellyfish in space. Down here, we have some koi fishes swimming in the sky. And so, I'm hoping to do a few more pieces and kind of make it a series. And after starting to do it full time, I've had more time to think a bit more about my pieces instead of just doing a bunch of things for practice. And I'm hoping to move towards some more conceptual pieces. So yeah, I feel like that's my spark notes.
Awesome. Yeah. I love how your work, there's just quite a lot of variety. Your human forms sometimes have a little bit of a flair, or like something is a little enhanced in terms of reality. And then you have like paintings that are just objects and symbols. And like some are hyper detailed and some are a little less detailed. You also work in like when you're creating visual art, it's painting, it's colored pencils, it's anything pretty much. Yeah.
So anything that I can get a hang of, I will keep using.
Okay. I love the story about you dedicating yourself full time to your artwork, and you've alluded to it a little bit, but yeah, tell that story, would you?
Yes. And so I ended up in Austin because I took a sales job, tech sales. And so like most other people who honestly get a business undergrad major, I was just down to see what was going to happen. And so when I moved here, I made a bunch of friends and that was great. But I went to my first art market and I just saw young people like me selling their art. And I don't know, I thought their art was super cool and it seemed pretty accessible. And so I befriended a vendor. Thank you, Katie, if you're watching. But I ended up just DMing her and be like, will you get a coffee with me? And that is who kind of showed me what markets she was doing and just like how she was doing it. And so I got coffee with her January 2020. And so I pretty much had 11 months to just start making some art. And then I was living alone during the pandemic. So I had nothing but time. Like I hadn't painted in probably 5 or 6 years. And I was like so bored that I painted the back of my bookcase. And so again, not super intentional, just me having fun, trying to use my time productively. And so then my first market was November 2020, which almost my 1 year soon, which is exciting. But yeah, I just started doing a few markets, but I was still working, my sales job. And I just felt like it was kind of hard for me to work. And it's such a big company that I just wasn't feeling super motivated. And then once I started doing my art side hobby, I was like, wow, imagine feeling fulfilled and excited to do this every day. And just kind of realizing that a creative career is completely possible. And the stability that maybe you look for in other jobs, like might not even be worth it. I personally couldn't do it. And so then, in February 2021, I quit. And so, that means I made it 1.5 years in corporate America. And so, I honestly, it took a few months for me to figure it out. I was looking at UX design, like definitely a very anxiety ridden period of just trying to figure it out. And so by June, I just decided to, go full time, trying to take the opportunities I was getting and see what it would be like if I just put all my time and effort there. And so far, so good. I feel like it's been a nice positive validation cycle where something good happens and then it just kind of snowballs. So it's definitely been an accidental journey. One might say serendipitous. And so that's kind of been the shift lately though, is I can't just keep doing things by accident. Like I need to have more intention and trying to map out my direction and kind of what I want to grow to be as an artist.
Amazing. I love some of our other episodes. I'm talking with people who are still in their full-time job and like hustling on the side, doing their creative passion and wondering like, when can I make the move? When should I make the move? And it's really exciting to talk to someone who already took that leap. And also I love that like, you lasted a full 18 months in corporate America, where like many of the rest of us are like swallowing that stuff for a lot longer. So congratulations to you as a role model for the rest of us. What did it feel like? Let's talk about that. What did it feel like to put in your resignation and make that commitment?
I personally wanted to do a cartwheel. I was so excited. It was just honestly a relief, and kind of the way that I just like look at my life, my overall happiness is like these different areas. And I just felt like I just wasn't valued in my career. But, that's such a big part of your life. After school, that's kind of what replaces it. And I was always okay at school. And so I felt like this area was just like dragging me down, where I felt like, I am a hardworking person. I would love to be a great employee. but I just felt like no matter what I did, I couldn't be a great employee to this company. Like, I don't know, like I don't love a super high hierarchy. If they're like 9 levels of power, you've lost me. I love being number 9 at the bottom, you know, like I feel like it just did not bring out the best parts of my personality. And so it was really nice to just, I don't know, like just be able to be myself without constantly having to modify, you know, things that I liked about myself. So yeah, it was honestly just such a relief. I feel like I've been glowing ever since. It's been really good. And I think, you know, with the pandemic, I think all the perks and the fun parts of the job where it's like, oh, your friends, oh, this distraction. Personally, I love wearing business casual clothes. All of that is gone. And you're stuck with just the job. And it's like, oh no. And so I think maybe that's why mine was so hyper, you know, sped up to get to this point where it was just like me in my apartment for a year, just like click-clacking away, staring at myself in the reflection after. So I think maybe compared to other people who have like families where it's like, they're not just thinking about their career, I had nothing else to think about. And so it's been great. And like, I feel like I'm someone where I love not having nothing to do in my day and structuring my own day. And so that's been great. I'm not a morning person. And so I don't have to keep fighting against things that are just kind of ingrained in who I am. And so I feel like ever since I quit, things have just been moving, you know, without friction, which is nice.
I love it. I am so happy for you. I take in your story and let it serve as a role model for me too. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And a couple more questions before we get into your reading. Will you talk a little bit about, I mean, maybe you've said some of this already, but like what inspires you or what does it feel like when inspiration comes?
Yeah.
How do you know like what you're going to paint next?
Yeah. So honestly, I feel like sometimes like I'll have the idea and I'm just itching to get started. And sometimes it's like, it's almost like a challenge, like the jellyfish. I just didn't know if I could draw the jellyfish at first. And so it was just like this exciting, it's almost like a puzzle of like, can I get this to fit correct? So sometimes that's where it starts, where I'm just like, could I do this? And then other times I have an idea that I like think is funny or I think it's cool. And like, I feel like I'm just always like excited to get started. Like I'm not someone who thinks a lot before I act, and maybe not across my life, but with stuff like this, I'm like, it's better to get started, fail, and redo it. Like I'll do a piece 2 or 3 times if I have to, but I want to just get started. And so for me, I know, like, I feel it's kind of impulsive. Like once I feel it, I have to do it. And so definitely just like listening to that natural impulse of, wow, I have no ideas of what I want to paint. Let's leave it alone and see if there's anything that I'm like dying to draw, you know? And so that's where working across different mediums, the inspiration kind of calls itself. And if I'm really struggling, I'll just look around on Pinterest and see, oh, could I draw that? And so kind of incorporating practice pieces with pieces that I've thought a lot about.
I love that. I just want to emphasize something you said. It's better to get started, fail, and redo it. And yeah, because I think that like fear of getting it wrong or like it just prevents people from taking action in the first place. So yeah, why not dive in and then worry about it later if it's crappy or if you think it's crappy.
I think people put a lot of pressure on like the artistic process, but failure is most definitely built in. Like this piece here looked completely different. I went all over it with white and I was like, okay, we have to redo this. But at least I felt like I was in the process.
Nice. Yeah. And that's a good point because it's like even when the canvas is completed, there's still more you can do to it. Like it's up to you. Like it's not like, well, you finished it and either you have to like throw it away or die or like whatever. It's like, no, you can keep working with it. It's not like you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know?
Yes.
Okay, so let's kind of move into the situation that you're starting to think about. And, you know, as you said, like, because you've kind of thrown yourself into this again for the first time in a long time and really gone like whole hog with it. And a lot of that has been
beautifully executed practice, because you're like, can I draw this? Can I draw this? And then you create these great pieces. But now you're starting to think, as you said, about like what kind of thrust or like what kind of theme or what kind of work or what kind of legacy you really want to start putting out there with a little more intentionality. And talk a little bit about the question that's kind of been nagging at you around all of that.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of just to start it is that basically I feel like for me, people will ask me, oh, what does this piece mean? And maybe I'll have like a sentence answer or I'll like start to pre-think it. But, you know, sometimes it's just like personal and it's hard for me to, you know, have that vulnerability with someone that maybe I don't know. But part of art is that external sharing. And so I'm kind of entering this thing of like, you know, maybe my piece is getting more conceptual. Maybe I feel like a lot of my art is something that I've read and like, that's my interpretation of it. And like, I feel like that means though, that if I'm reading a philosophy book and I feel particularly inspired by it, I'm sharing a kind of personal belief with strangers. And on one hand, I think it's so compelling. And whenever, you know, someone like Dali, you know, the melting clocks, I'm like, yeah, time is an illusion. Like it really resonates with you. But, you know, when you're kind of starting out and you're sharing those personal beliefs, it's a little intimidating. And so I feel like I'm kind of thinking about how much of my personal identity do I want incorporated with my artistic identity? Because, you know, it's already me out there selling my art at these markets, you know, like my face is up on the Instagram. It's like, it's already kind of just me incorporating my personality into my art and into this business. And it's kind of just, you know, where is the line between how much of my life do I really want to share in my business and then in my art?
Yeah. And it's interesting, or it just occurred to me because like when you were talking about leaving your job, that was a place where you felt like you really couldn't bring yourself, even the minimal amount of yourself into the space of like that product, whatever, that money-making scheme.
Yeah.
And then now you have a lot of freedom to bring like as much of yourself as you want to. And then there's a little bit of like reluctance, like, where do I draw the line? What makes me uncomfortable? So that's what we decided to explore with this tarot reading is how can Swathi think about the personal reveal in the artwork. Oh, you have a witch's cat. Looks like.
She's very affectionate, very needy. So she'll be on my lap for now.
Nice. What's her name?
Leela, say hi. Her name's Leela. Her little brother Nacho is watching us down there. I got them during the pandemic, so they're very needy, but I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yes, pets have been really crucial in the pandemic,
yes.
For sure. Okay, so we're gonna try a four-card spread to explore this concept. How can Swathi bring more of her personal identity or just her being into her work in a way that's not too doesn't push you too much too fast, but doesn't let you stay too comfortable at the same time. Yes. So our first question for this reading is, what's an aspect of yourself that is ready to come through your art right now? So I'm going to pull a card.
Exciting.
And we're using Tarot of the Holy Spectrum. Okay, so for an aspect of yourself that you can bring into your art that's ready to show up in your art now, you have the Knight of Swords. And as you mentioned, you're a Gemini moon. So Knight of Swords is like maybe a little bit connected with that, an air sign. And this is the fastest moving knight in the tarot. There's 4 knights and they all kind of move at different speeds with different motivations. And the Knight of Swords is like that sword that the knight is holding is really representative of like a project, a thought, a commitment, something they want to learn or pursue. And then they're moving incredibly swiftly in pursuit of that. So like there's a couple ways to think about this. One might be kind of like the warrior in you that's really like hard charging, and maybe even like this night will get things done the fastest, but might make some mistakes on the way. Like it's like what you said, like it's better to get started, fail, and redo it
Yeah.
than to like sit back and wait and like plan the whole thing out and like get all the strategy. Because like if you had done that with your business, with your artwork, you'd still be like clogging in at 9 every day, like miserable for 8 hours, clicking and clacking and like wondering like, when can I do it? Right. So I think this is kind of that quality that you have that's really passionate, that's really like committed to something, that knows how to make things happen, that has like a kind of urgency, and also is willing to, I don't know, just kind of like cut through the bullshit and get to some kind of like truth or some place of accomplishment. That's kind of general in terms of like, you know, it's not really telling you like, start sharing your philosophical thoughts in your artwork. But, you know, you were talking about like feminism earlier. And before we started recording, you mentioned that the place where you were working was a very like patriarchal, not very feminist place. And that was very palpable to you. And then some of the things that you're interested in painting seem to come from like a feminist perspective or a reaction to, you know, like things you're reading or looking at certain things through a feminist lens. And so I think this might be like also a little bit of fearlessness in terms of, not just like having the empowered thoughts, but like letting the empowered thoughts be seen and available to other people, like sort of like contagious, you know, like if you put it out there, like it might empower another person to really embrace. Because if we all sit back and stay quiet, the patriarchy just keeps running itself, right? Like we have to sort of like break through and say the thing. So like part of your warrior spirit or your willingness to like chase something with a lot of fervor and really commit yourself to something, that seems like a part of yourself that you're in strong possession of, and might be like an easy place for you to start experimenting in terms of like, revealing a little bit more in what you create.
Nice. Yeah, no, I feel like that resonates, and that sounds good.
Okay. This is an aspect, or let me ask you first, is there something that you notice or see or connect with in this card? I know the imagery is pretty simple, but.
No, I mean, I think what you said about like, it just sounds like it's like a good initiating energy. And I feel like that's something I'm great at, is I'm great at like starting things, and even kind of maintaining things. I'm like horrible at ending things, but like starting things is something that like always feels pretty natural to me. And I also, you know, what you said about like maybe like expressing those thoughts and how it resonates with others. Like I'm definitely a big personal expression person. Like, I don't know, like I like, for example, I love wearing quirky t-shirts because then people know a little bit about my sense of humor if they don't know me. So I feel like that kind of aligns with that tendency of mine.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can also see this, I'm going to go one more time. I can also see this as like just an encouragement to do it. It's like in the same way that you made, like you really picked your art back up and you went full force with it, and now it's like your main thing. Infusing more of yourself in your art may just be like the next phase of what you're doing, and like really committing to that, whether it's kind of like gradually or in little bits. And of course, like you'll be evolving as you keep making art. So sorry about the dogs, but just really like, it might just be encouraging you as well to like cut through the fear as much as you feel comfortable doing, because it could just really expand everything even more.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
but you will know best. Okay, so our next question is an aspect of yourself that you might want to continue to keep private for a while. So even though Knight of Swords is like, go for it, you might want to save something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have the Devil in this card.
Mm-hmm.
So the Devil could represent a lot of different things, but usually it's something that has a kind of hold over us in a power sense, and something that we've given our power over to. And in this depiction of the card, you have this male figure who's wearing like almost like a suit with these green glasses, and then surrounding the figure in the dark is all of these different sayings like, I can't, I have to, why even try, fear, all of these kinds of like self-defeating thoughts. One example to think about, this is just like an analogy, but like with your corporate job, and because I love to demonize racial capitalism, like the devil becomes our corporate overlord, where like we don't, the corporate, like working inside a corporation, for example, you have to put up with this hierarchical structure. You get given jobs that are sometimes pointless, or you have to like follow these processes that are like to just like track information, but it isn't really essential for you to actually do the thing that you're paid to do. Yeah. And that's just a sample. And so like, you have these people, or, like the people at the top of the hierarchy who like hand all of that down for you to do, and no one really likes it, or you don't like it, for example. Yes. And you're kind of miserable, but like we get into this routine where it's like, well, I have to go to this job. Like, even though I don't like it, I don't really have a choice. And for some people, that's definitely true, depending on where they are in their lives. But the idea is also that like we are participating in the process. Like we sought out that job, we accepted the offer, we continue to show up, we cash those paychecks. And so the arrangement stays in place. And so like we've given some of our power and our joy and our freedom over to the devil in this case, in exchange for something. And we just kind of act like there's no other way. And we sort of relinquish our power in that sense. And so that's just like one example, but the same could be true in a relationship, or like we can think of our phones as the devil if we're like scrolling all the time, whatever the case may be. So there may be something that really, like the devil really does hit on like deep vulnerabilities, and sometimes like arrangements we have that we haven't become fully aware of yet, or maybe you're just starting to be aware of them, like how you want to create more freedom in your life. Yeah. And so those can be like really powerful private experiences that like with some time, when you're on the other side of them, they become easier to talk about. But when they're sort of fresh, or when they're in process, it's definitely something that you don't want to expose to all of the world.
Yeah.
No, that was kind of a long explanation, but
no, I think what you said, like, about the devil, like representing, like, I don't know, like what you said about it, like representing like traumatic experiences. And like, that's kind of, again, what, like real vulnerability means to me, talking about real emotions that I've had, instead of like, I feel like I like a good, comedic take on most things, but those aren't the experiences, and those aren't the parts that really touched me. And so, yeah, I feel like there are probably a lot of things that, I'm probably not ready to be discussing in a public forum. And yeah, I mean, if it accidentally represents corporate America, like, there were feelings and thoughts that I had while I was in corporate America that probably are still private, and that I'm probably still processing. Because it really hasn't been that long.
Right. And so like, just to kind of compare these two side by side, this one is sort of more yeah, more of that external part of you. Like, you know, I think anyone who would meet you could see that you're, like you're a very dynamic person, you're outgoing, you have a sense of humor, like you're really committed. Just like you told me the story of like switching to your artwork, like yeah, just this switch flip for you pretty much. And then like that was that, and you were on your way. And like that is very easy for people to perceive about you. And so I think like leaning into that part of yourself in your art is going to be a pretty like natural next step, versus there will maybe in the future, but not now, go like really deep within and expose the like strange power dynamics that you've worked through in life. That's something to save for later.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like in general, like I feel like it's kind of like, for me, the way I see is also just like trusting my intuition of like what feels correct. And so I had mentioned to you, you know, earlier, but a piece for a horror exhibit and how it's a bunch of screenshots from my love life. And, you know, I'm going through it and I'm like, I don't want to pick anything too personal. I don't want someone to feel like they just read my diary, but I'm like kind of just trusting my intuition that what I'm intending to put out, hopefully it'll be perceived as that, and just kind of leaning into my intuition more. That's kind of how I'm putting those two together.
Yeah. And like with those texts, there were probably some where it's like, this one is just like funny bad, versus like this one is like sad bad, right?
Yeah. We have one that was crossing the line that we just took up. It was on the line, so we leaned on the funny side.
Yeah, where you can still like make the same point. Like dating is terrifying.
Horrible.
Without like having to bare your soul in that case.
Yeah. I want someone to look at it and have no idea what's going on in my current love life. That is our end goal.
Perfect. Okay, so card number 3 is a card to help you know like when to expand. So if you've like done the Knight of Swords for a while and you want to push it a little more, maybe something that will help you know like, yeah, it's time to kind of take that personal expression a little further. Okay, here you have the King of Swords. So the swords are really like showing up for you today. The king is, you know, 2 steps above the knight. So he's the master of the domain of the swords. And you can see like right in there, it says truth. And then he's got like all these speakers and this huge sword kind of forming his throne and this light radiating from behind him. And I think even either like an antenna, some kind of like broadcasting apparatus on the antler crown that he's wearing. Mm-hmm. So this is another one that kind of aligns with that Gemini energy, the air energy, and that idea of communication and thought. And so in terms of like a card to help you know when to expand, this is a really powerful one. It's really like asking you to, I think, call on your intuition again to know like it's time for me to step more fully into my truth. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be like kind of conditional, you know, like the world is continuing to change very rapidly. You're in conversation in a philosophical way with the world, like through what you read and what's going on mm-hmm. politically. And so as you watch things kind of unfold, I think new aspects of yourself will be coming out that want to speak. And so it's really just kind of like tuning into what you're ready. You know, I think you'll start to see your art more and more, not just as this, like, not just as something you love and not just as, you know, like a way for you to create beauty and communicate, but also as like a venue for you to, and I'm sure you already see it this way, but a venue for you to like really share a message if that's something that you want to do, or to represent something in a way that's unique to you, as a way of like, this is my truth, and this is a truth that I think more people need to take into account or need to understand. So I think you'll feel like you'll feel this like big energy of probably also fear, but this compulsion, like it's time for me to make this statement. Like I've had enough time to think about this and feel my way through it and figure out my position. And like, then, and probably the piece of art will just be talking to you in your brain as well. So yeah, it seems like a really powerful signal that you'll know how to recognize when it's time to go even further.
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds interesting. Honestly, I feel like the screenshot piece is like the most personal thing. And like, even that is like, it still tells you really nothing, but I feel like that is me dipping my toe. And so I assume my intuition will tell me when it's time to make, something real.
Well, and I think like you're in a unique position to create that particular piece. Like you're younger than me, and you're still young, and you're in a time when it's like fun to be dating. I mean, it can be fun to be dating at any age, but like it's probably lots of people your age are doing that unless they're like, dating someone steadily. So, and like growing up at a time when like technology is really ubiquitous in terms of like communicating with, like finding people and communicating with people. And so like someone who's like 40, like me, is not going to make a very great like text piece of art. I don't make art. I would not make good art anyway, but, like that's something that's like unique to you, but also like other people are experiencing it, but you're in a position right now where you can have something to say. And it's kind of like, dating is terrifying if you didn't know everyone. And it's just as scary as like a horror movie or anything else. So kind of recognizing like how you're uniquely positioned at a particular time to share something from your own perspective. And then our final question is, what's possible if I bring more of myself into my art? Okay, what's possible when you bring more of yourself into your art? So here you have the 7 of Cups, which kind of has that red color that you like.
And it's a pretty cool card.
Often this card, so in like a traditional 7 of Cups card, you'll see a person peering into this foggy cloud, and there's 7 cups floating in the cloud, and each of the 7 cups has a different like symbol or image in it. And the person standing there is kind of like overwhelmed by all of the options that are available. So it's partly a card about like navigating through uncertainty and just being in a place where you have more choices that are really difficult to choose from. Like it's hard to discern which is the right one. I think in this case, it's also speaking to like having an abundance of options. So like the more, I feel like this, there's sort of a catch-22 in terms of like, the more you engage in self-examination, the more you realize how many layers and how complex you are to understand in a way. Like you think you're going to get to a place where like, oh, I know myself, I'm good. But then you turn a corner and it's like, oh, I have to confront this part of myself now or again or in a new way or whatever. So similar to that, I feel like the more you want to bring yourself into your art, the more possibility becomes available to you as you go. Like every door you open internally kind of opens 7 more for you to choose from. And you'll want to be like discerning in terms of which way you go, but you also have, you were talking about your intuition, and you also study astrology and look to astrology. And so like using tools like that to kind of see what the landscape looks like as things keep expanding and more possibility emerges, you really get to choose like, well, which direction do I want to go? But it seems like it has a multiplier effect where it's not just like, it definitely doesn't close things down. It actually just like opens things up so much that you just have more choices you have to contend with.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I'd rather have an abundance of choices than not enough. So I like the freedom element of that.
Yeah. How does that feel? Like, do you feel like that clarifies anything for you? Are there any questions that feel like they're still hanging?
I feel like it resonates just with like what my guess was of like, well, you're just going to have to guess and intuit what is the correct amount. And like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it makes me excited to know that, as long as, whatever I continue down, whatever I do choose to share, like I like the multiplier effect. And like, I'm a very decisive person and I like having a lot of options. And I don't know, it just sounds like, I mean, also, I feel like 2021, 2020, I think most people would agree that like you just cannot possibly imagine what your life is going to look like in a year. And my life a year ago looked completely different. And I feel like that just confirms that my life in a year, no matter how much I'm going to try and guess, like, oh, this is how I want my art career to go. Like it has a life of its own. And like, I truly am just here passively, just watching.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're a channel for your art?
I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if channel's the word, but I feel like, I don't know how, I guess, to answer that question, but I do feel like overall, like the more that I lean into my art, the rest of my life kind of has been working in harmony. Like, I think the self-examination part of art just serves me in the rest of my life. And I feel like, working at my corporate job, I learned a lot about myself that I had no idea. I had no idea what I was like in a situation like that. And so now with art, kind of getting to really capitalize on, and I think like, my ability to initiate and just commit. I really have never committed to anything in my entire life. I would like to say I'm a jack of all trades. Typically I have like a toe in things, but I don't really like to commit. And so this is the first time that I've had the chance to fully commit to something. And, it's been interesting to learn about that side of myself because never really thought that I didn't really associate that with myself. So it's very interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything you feel like you might bring, any like personal aspect of yourself that you feel more willing to bring into your art at this point?
Yeah, I mean, the cards told me to just listen to my gut instinct. And so, I don't know, kind of being willing to share more about pieces that I've already made and like, whatever like philosophical ideas, whatever that is that I sometimes am nervous to share with others or that I feel private about, like, I don't know, just kind of faking it till you make it, like just writing it out and hoping and just trusting that it'll resonate with someone.
Yeah. And I think the Knight of Swords and the King of Swords are both like asking you to own it, like
yeah.
If the piece is great and people are interested in the piece, then whatever it was that led to its creation is also something you can own. Like, not that you're obligated to explain all of your art to people because I don't think that you are, but I like seeing those swords for you.
Yeah, no, definitely nice because like, I'm 24. It's like, sometimes I'm like, what are my ideas in life really? Like, I'm sure in 10 years, I'm going to look back and be like, okay, but it's a reflection of where I'm at now. And yeah, sometimes, when I talk to people at art markets, it resonates with people that like, so it surprises me. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I feel like we all agree on more things than I even really guessed, which is nice.
Yeah. And it's so cool when suddenly you're like having a conversation with a stranger over something that you created where they're like, they've seen some of themselves in your work, or like they're connected to something, and just out of the blue, it's like a new friend.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's like one of my favorite things about markets.
Well, tell people where we can find you and how we can support your work.
Yes. Well, I am on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Swathi Konduri. And I also have a website, swatcasa.squarespace.com. I really got to buy a domain name, but for now, that's where you can find me. And, I'm at a lot of local art markets around Austin. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, keep up with where I am, who's stopping you?
Yes, and you also do commissions. So if you see something you like or see something that's sold out, or if there's something in particular, if you have a dream about a bear walking through an abandoned city, Swathi can paint it for you probably for the right price. So
I love you.
Swathi, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's wonderful to talk to you, and I'm a big fan of your work, and I'm excited about what you're doing and can't wait to see more.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and the reading. Thank you so much to Swathi for coming on the show. We do want to recap the tarot spread that we went through with Swathi as part of her reading so that you can try it yourself. It is a 4-card spread, and the first question in that 4-card spread is, what's an aspect of myself that is ready to come through my art right now? Question 2, what's an aspect of myself that I might want to keep private for a while longer? Question 3, please show me a card to help me know when to expand. And question 4, what is possible if I bring more of myself into my art? Really beautiful, important questions to think about. So we hope you'll try the spread yourself, and feel free to share the cards that you pull in the comments below the video or reach out to us. We also have a wealth of other resources for you related to tarot and creativity. We have a membership program, we have classes and events and retreats. We do one-on-one readings. We have creative coaching coming up. So find us on Instagram, check out our website. We'd love to connect with you and talk more about tarot, creativity, magic, and ritual. Have a beautiful end of the year, and we'll see you for the next episode.